Welcome back to our channel where we share updates and untold stories about Catherine, Princess of Wales, and her royal family. Today we bring you some news. King Charles suffers heart attack on live television as Princess Anne leads call for abdication. In a sequence of events that have put the British monarchy in its worst crisis in modern history, King Charles III had a serious medical emergency, which Buckingham Palace said was a heart attack, as he was giving a live television speech to the country. The king's death came just one day after a shocking television interview in which his sister Princess Anne publicly said he was unfit to rule and demanded that he step down right away. Sources now say this was part of a coordinated effort with the Prince and Princess of Wales to fundamentally change the crown. The United Kingdom is now on the edge of a cliff, and its long-standing monarchy is in disarray because of open rebellion. What started as quiet complaints behind the strong gates of Buckingham Palace has turned into a public battle for the heart of the country. For 7 decades, Princess Anne has been the picture of calm, steady service. Now she is the improbable leader of a royal revolution. Her statement wasn't just an opinion, it was a strategic move that gave voice to what millions have thought for a long time, that Charles was never meant to be a successful king. When Prince William and Princess Catherine of Wales elected to support her, they put more than just their family ties on the line. They put the future of the monarchy on the line for a vision of radical change, openness, and service. It's not a matter of if King Charles will step down anymore. It's a matter of when and what will happen to the institution he took over. When the king's heart stopped in the middle of his address, the world saw the symbolic end of an ancient era. A new age of accountability and populism is starting to rise from the ashes of the old one. This leaves the country with a huge question: who will hold the crown, and who will be left behind by history's harsh march? Part 1. The shot that was heard all over the world. On the morning of October 15, 2024, a thick, out-of-season fog covered London. This was an appropriate weather sign for the earthquake that was about to happen. Televisions sprang to life all throughout the nation, from the terraced dwellings of Manchester to the shiny office towers of Westminster. The ITV emblem flashed on screens like a warning sign for an unplanned high-stakes broadcast. Princess Anne, the Princess Royal, who has long been seen as the monarchy's most hard-working and stoic pillar, appeared on live television for the first time ever. The fact that this kind of appearance was so rare made many in the royal family and administration quite uneasy. This wasn't just a casual chat, it was a fuse being ignited on purpose. Princess Anne sat on a red velvet wingback chair and looked quite royal. Her blue jacket was simple, but it showed that she had been in charge for a long time via her work in public service. Her piercing blue eyes, which had seen a lot in her 74 years, felt like they could pierce through any lie. Jonathan Dimbleby, a seasoned broadcaster who has covered the royal family for decades, sat across from Elizabeth. His voice shook slightly as he asked the question that would start a firestorm. Dimbleby started with, "Your Royal Highness," his voice full of reverence and expectation. "With the utmost respect, what do you think the monarchy will be like under King Charles's rule? Do you think he is leading the country in the right direction?" The studio became quite quiet. The only sound was the quiet hum of the broadcast equipment. Millions of people throughout the world held their breath, realizing that something important was about to happen. The grin on Princess Anne's face wasn't warm. It had a keen edge that sparkled with meticulously planned purpose. She leaned forward a little and looked straight into the camera, making a close, almost secret connection with the people at home. Then, in a voice as solid and unyielding as stone, she sent forth the news that would change the world. "The crown," she said, her words clear and sharp, "is an institution of service, not just of birthright. My brother has never had the practicality or the connection to the people that this job needs. He is a philosopher when the country needs someone to run things. He is a conservative in a time when change is needed. Charles has never been fit to be king for the welfare of the institution and the nation it serves. He had to give up his throne. right away. The remarks spread like a shock wave over Britain. They quickly circulated across internet and television media, breaking the carefully built facade of royal unity and showing the deep, festering fissures within. From London to Los Angeles, newsrooms rushed to write headlines like, "Princess Anne turns on King Charles" and "Royal Uprising Unleashed." Social networking sites blew up. Within minutes, "Royal Uprising where Anne speaks," and the more violent "Charles must fall" took over X, previously Twitter and other sites. In the big, quiet halls of Westminster, MPs whispered in surprise, their voices full of both dread and joy. This wasn't simply a broadcast. It was a declaration of war and a covert coup d'etat that happened on live TV. Anne's comment was more than just an attack on her. It was a well-planned political move. It revealed a harsh, painful reality and made the country face a topic it had been avoiding for a long time, as the British monarchy, which is based on old traditions and has a lot of internal conflict still important in the 21st century. Princess Anne had pushed the royal family to a historic turning point with one remark that was very powerful: change or fall apart. Part 2. The palace is in chaos. The news hit Buckingham Palace like a punch in the gut. King Charles's most important counselors met in the council chamber for an emergency meeting. Their expressions were pale, as if they had just seen a national disaster. Queen Camilla smashed her fist on the ancient wood table, her lips pressed together in a thin white line and her eyes blazing with anger. The crystal wine glasses, which are from a time when things were more steady, shook dangerously. "Deceit," he said sharply, her voice piercing through the shocked quiet like a knife. "This is pure betrayal. Anne is purposely, and with bad intent, trying to weaken the power of the crown. She wants to take Charles down and all of us down." Her remarks were full of wrath that she couldn't control, which showed how scared she was for her life. But not everyone there felt the same way as Camilla, who was quite angry. The Lord Chamberlain, an experienced advisor with silver hair and a serious, contemplative look on his face, spoke carefully, his words bearing the weight of institutional memory. "Your Majesty, we need to be very careful. Princess Anne is more than just a family member. A lot of people see her as a symbol of responsibility, and they love and respect her more than any of us. If you directly confront her, it would cause a public confidence crisis like we've never seen before." Everyone else at the table nodded in agreement, but they all avoided Queen Camilla's look. The harsh truth was that Anne was not your average princess. She was the best example of service, having spent more than 50 years doing hard, unglamorous labor. Other royals, including Charles himself, had frequently failed to act when there was a scandal or when the public didn't care. But Anne's reputation for hard work was almost impossible to break. King Charles sat at the head of the long table and didn't say a word. He was as quiet as a monument carved from grief. His hands were gripping the arms of his chair, and his knuckles were white. He was looking in the middle distance, staring into space. Every word Anne spoke echoed in his memory, hurting his soul more and more. He was never meant to be king. He was aware of his sister. She never spoke lightly. But why now? Why would Anne, his once loyal friend, seek to tear him apart in such a public and terrible way? It seemed like the throne which he had spent his whole life preparing for was turning to dust under him. Charles felt a deep, paralyzing dread, for the first time since he became king, losing what he thought was rightfully his. At the same time, Princess Anne's large rural estate in Gloucestershire Gatcombe Park was quiet and peaceful, far from the media storm that was going on outside its gates. Anne sat by a fire that was crackling and warming the room with its glow. The air smelled faintly like bergamot as she clutched a hot cup of Earl Grey tea. In front of her was an open book on royal history that had stopped at a chapter about her mother, Queen Elizabeth II. The words, "duty above all," were highlighted in bright ink, and the strokes were as strong and clear as Anne herself. She drank her tea with a calm, determined look on her face. There was no trace of hesitation or worry. It felt like she had been getting ready for this moment for years, maybe even her whole life. There was an unopened mail on a tiny table next to the book. The envelope had the royal cipher of Buckingham Palace on it. Anne looked at it, but didn't touch it. She knew Charles would try to talk to her to appeal to their common past and their blood, but she also understood that she couldn't go back now. What she said wasn't only a criticism of her brother. They were the opening shots in a secret battle that had been going on in the royal family for centuries. It was a fight for power and the very nature of the monarchy. Tradition was at odds with change. Bloodline was fighting service. And most importantly, Anne's unspoken question, who really deserves the crown? Now it hung like a guillotine above the House of Windsor. Part 3. The Seeds of Rebellion, a decades-long rivalry between brothers. To comprehend why Princess Anne, the foundation of the contemporary monarchy, would audaciously challenge her brother, one must traverse the expansive hallways of Buckingham Palace in the 1960s. Charles and Anne created their own personalities in a very different way than their mother, Queen Elizabeth II. Charles, the oldest, was born with a set path in life. He was born with the weight of the crown on his shoulders, yet instead of making him stronger, it appeared to make him weaker. He was a sensitive and thoughtful youngster who sought comfort in art, music, and philosophy. He would frequently go to the Royal Library to read books on architecture and gardening, as if he were trying to escape the throne's shadow. But this sensitivity had a big problem. It made him want approval all the time. Charles craved approval from his mother, the public, and everyone else. He was hurt greatly by even the smallest criticism. Anne, on the other hand, was a raging force of nature. She was born 2 years after Charles and grew up with a toughness and common sense that was almost unbreakable. Charles wanted to build model villages that would last, but Anne rode her horse through muddy meadows without caring about storms or gales. Anne didn't care about fame or admiration. All she cared about was doing her job. She worked hard on her charitable work even when she was a teenager, fighting for organizations like Save the Children, with a passion that amazed royal aides. People called her the tireless princess because she worked hard and frequently did boring things. Anne didn't work to be loved. She worked because she thought it was her main mission in life. An unsaid rift between the siblings became larger than anybody outside the family knew. Charles was always put first since he was the heir. Palace advisors flocked to him, indulging his most abstract ideas about a green monarchy. Anne, on the other hand, was frequently left out of strategic talks because she was seen as a doer instead of a visionary. A former aide's story about a particular event made this separation even worse. Anne came up with an ambitious and thorough plan to change how the royal family spends money at a planning conference at Clarence House in 1985. She pushed for radical openness, which meant moving a lot of money from palace maintenance to projects run by the people. The advisors listened patiently, but Charles, who was then the Prince of Wales, told her to go away. "Your ideas are great, Anne, but they are completely unrealistic." He continued, his voice full of a familiar, condescending tone. "The monarchy is not a charity. It is a symbol, and for symbols to work, they need to be great in some way." Anne didn't say anything back. She only looked at her brother with a cold, quiet glare. No one else in the room may have seen it, but something within her broke at that moment. After that, she discreetly watched him, her patience growing thin. She wasn't looking for revenge. She was looking for a chance to protect what she thought was the monarchy's fundamental purpose, to serve its people, not itself. She was frustrated for more than just herself. Anne observed a society that was changing. The people no longer blindly respected the monarchy, but instead wanted answers and value for their money. Charles, who was obsessed with tradition and his own strange obsessions, didn't appear to notice this huge change. He wrote books on architecture and pushed for organic farming. Anne, on the other hand, went to some of the world's poorest areas where she met regular people and heard their worries directly. The gap between them was too big to fix by the time Charles became king in 2022. Anne thought that the monarchy was going down a dangerous, self-indulgent road that would make it irrelevant under his reign, and she, who was always devoted to the crown, but not always to the man who wore it, decided to do something. Her comment on ITV wasn't a sudden outburst. It was the planned end of years of insults, unhealed wounds, and a strong belief that the monarchy had to change or die. Part 4. The Secret Alliance, making the renewal trio. In the spring of 2024, while cherry blossoms were in bloom at the Sandringham estate, a secret gathering took place in a drawing room with wood panels. The big windows let in a lot of light, which lit up a painting of Queen Elizabeth II. Her painted eyes seemed to watch over the important decisions her successors made. Princess Anne, Prince William, and Catherine, Princess of Wales, were the only three individuals there. There were no guards or servants, just the sound of a fire crackling and the weight of a dynasty on their shoulders. William sat opposite from his aunt. His face showed the stress of months of fighting with the media over his estranged brother, Prince Harry. He was under a lot of stress, not only from the constant media attention, but also from the obvious problems in his own family. The monarchy's reputation had taken a hit because of Harry and Meghan's heated interviews, and many were starting to wonder whether William had the strength to keep it all together. Kate sat next to her husband and kept up her usual calm demeanor, but the way she held the silk scarf on her lap firmly showed that she was tense. She understood the monarchy needed to change, but not to break RT. She wanted to save it for her own kids. She looked for a partner in this room who could help her get things done. At the head of the table was Princess Anne, who had her silver hair tied back into a tidy chignon. At first, she didn't say anything, but her piercing eyes were on William and Kate, testing their determination. William finally spoke, and his voice was low yet strong. "I don't want to see the monarchy fall, Aunt Anne. But if we keep being ostentatious, distant, and resistant to change, the public will stop coming back for good. I want to be the leader of a monarchy that serves not just rules." Kate spoke out softly, yet firmly. "We have witnessed how people have reacted to our recent charitable efforts. They want a monarchy that they can relate to, and that is a part of their life. They want to see real people who care, not simply individuals on a balcony. We can create that image, but we need someone with a lot of public trust to lead the way." Anne listened with her hands clasped and her eyes on them. A deep stillness fell over the room after they were done. She leaned forward then like a leader getting ready for combat. She remarked in a strong, firm voice, "If you really want to change the throne, William, you can't wait for your father to step aside. Charles will never give up easily. He thinks that the crown is his fate. But fate alone does not give someone the right to rule." Her words were a light in the dark. William recognized for the first time that he wasn't the only one who thought this way. Anne, his loyal aunt who had seen the monarchy's every hardship and success for more than 70 years, not only embraced his vision, but was also ready to fight for it. Kate, who was very good at making plans, said, "We need a clear plan, Your Royal Highness. A campaign in the media to change how people see the monarchy as a service. Real community initiatives to demonstrate that we are listening. And a method to get the public to believe that this transformation is necessary, even if it means—" She stopped, unwilling to say the last treacherous notion. Anne's grin was as hard as steel. "Even if it means changing who wears the crown," she said, her voice firm. William and Kate didn't say anything, but their looks said a lot. At that time, an unspoken agreement was made. There were no treaties or vows, but three individuals from three different generations came to a profound agreement. They were all working together toward the same bold goal to lead the monarchy into a new period, with or without the current king. They labored in secret for the next several months. Kate worked with some of the best public relations gurus to come up with the Monarchy of Service campaign. William spoke with important MPs and community leaders in private to see how much support there was for change. Anne discreetly rallied important people in the royal family and the government by using her large network and the fact that everyone respected her. The journalists, while they didn't know the details, sensed a change. One commentator for the Times called them the monarchy's renewal trio. Their plan was a ticking time bomb that would go off on Anne's signal. Part 5. The Political Storm and the King's Last-Ditch Effort. Princess Anne's interview didn't simply cause a media frenzy, it started a political firestorm. The mood at Westminster was electrifying. During a rare emergency meeting of the House of Commons, younger MPs, mostly from the opposition Labour Party, used the opportunity to question the entire basis of the monarchy's survival in contemporary Britain. The opposition, led by Rachel Carter, a lively and outspoken MP from Manchester, launched a fierce onslaught. Carter stood at the dispatch box with her flaming red hair and fiery eyes. Her voice echoed across the room. This House has rubber-stamped the funding of an institution that has been shrouded in secrecy and privilege for generations, she said. Millions of taxpayer pounds go to Buckingham Palace while kids in my area don't get enough school funding and NHS patients have to wait months for important treatment. Princess Anne has now said that the system is broken. Why should we keep paying for a costly monarchy that doesn't represent the principles or the future of our country? Her statements broke through the chamber's usual respect. Opposition MPs cheered loudly, but conservative and royalist MPs held on to their seats with gloomy looks. The argument was no longer about cutting the sovereign grant. It was a fundamental disagreement between those who wanted to keep the monarchy as a symbol of national stability and others who wanted a smaller, more responsible, and more contemporary institution. Princess Anne made a smart move by showing up in Birmingham for a Save the Children charity dinner. When she got there, thousands of people cheered and waved posters that said, "Anne our champion and a crown for the people." Anne walked up to the platform in a beautiful gray coat and was quite serene. A little silver badge with the words, "Duty First" on it was pinned on her lapel. This was the symbol of William and Kate's Monarchy of Service campaign. The picture of Anne standing strong and determined, wearing the insignia of the reformist movement, quickly went viral. With just one act, she went from being a royal renegade to a beacon of hope for a country that wanted change. King Charles made a disastrous choice at Buckingham Palace because he wanted to take back the story and put an end to his sister's revolt. His advisors strongly advised him not to, but he decided to speak to the country personally in a live broadcast from Parliament. He took a big risk to show that he was still in charge. He walked into the room wearing a sophisticated black suit. The crown seemed heavier than ever. As he walked up to the stage, his heart raced, not just because he was nervous, but also because he was deeply hurt by his family's treachery. He started with a voice that was warm, but clearly shaking. Our wonderful country of Britain has been through many tribulations throughout the years. We have always won by working together. The monarchy, with all its failings, has always been a symbol of that unity and continuity. He stopped all of a sudden. His face became white as a ghost. His eyes became big with fear. His left hand went up to his chest, and his fingers dug into the fabric of his suit, as if he were attempting to hold on to life itself. His lips clenched, and a grimace of misery twisted his face. His body shook, and beads of perspiration appeared on his forehead. The room collapsed into a shocked, frightened hush. Members of Parliament sat still. As he stumbled away from the stage, aides ran to his side to help him up. The light of cameras caught his pain. I have to keep going," Charles said in a weak, frantic voice. But the words faded as his legs gave out, and he fell into the arms of his staff. A few hours later, Buckingham Palace released a short statement saying, "His Majesty the King had a minor heart attack due to extreme stress. He is getting the greatest medical treatment, is in stable health, and should be able to return to work soon." But the carefully written statement couldn't stop the media maelstrom. Headlines screamed, "King Charles collapses. Crown in Jeopardy. The event destroyed what end of Charles's popular image, turning him from a monarch who was questioned into a symbol of sad weakness. Anne's strong involvement had already changed people's minds, and now they changed them much more. A quick YouGov survey indicated a huge shift. 65% of Britons now thought William and Kate, with Anne's support, were the proper leaders for a new age. William and Kate watched the news of his father's fall in a secluded sitting room at Kensington Palace. Kate held William's hand tightly. Her eyes were determined, but also full of profound, real worry. "We can't let this get out of hand," she remarked quietly. "The public is on our side. William, this is our time." William didn't answer right away, however. He gazed at the TV, which showed a terrifying picture of his father holding his chest and looking scared. He adored his father, the guy who had taught him about responsibility and fate, but he couldn't deny the truth. His father's leadership had brought the kingdom to the verge of collapse. William's inner struggle was like a storm. He wanted to go to his father's side, beg for forgiveness, and fix the wounds that had broken his family apart. But another part of him, the intense driving desire to change the monarchy for the people, propelled him forward. He dropped his head and tightened his fists. He said to the empty room, "Father, I'm so sorry, but I have to." Part 6. The Last Blow. A manifesto that got out. Queen Camilla, perceiving her husband's hold on power-slipping, mounted a counter-offensive, while King Charles was recovering. She told her media strategists to start a campaign to make her seem like the queen of tradition, the steady hand that protects Britain's legacy, in a secret meeting at Clarence House. She had a well-planned interview with the BBC and said, "In uncertain times, the nation needs stability, not rash changes." Articles emerged in publications that supported her. A terrible leak ruined all of her hard work. The Guardian got an anonymous copy of an internal paper called Royal Restructuring a Monarchy for the 21st Century. The 30-page paper, which had the signatures of Princess Anne and Prince William on it, laid forth a daring revolutionary plan for the crown. It suggested the following: a 60% cut in the monarchy's yearly operational expenditures, closing down certain non-essential royal homes and turning them into museums or public areas, a huge drop in the number of working royals who are paid by the government, putting the money that was saved into a new national trust for programs that help education, healthcare, and community development. This wasn't simply a suggestion, it was a manifesto. It marked the end of a time of royal excess and the beginning of a monarchy that helped people in a real, quantifiable sense. The public response was mostly good. People protested outside Buckingham Palace, but this time they were in favor of the reported proposal. Signs read, "Support Royal Restructuring," and "Anne and William, Our Future." For King Charles, reading the document in his private rooms was the worst betrayal. His own sister and son had not only planned against him, but they had also written the plan for how he would become useless. In a last-ditch effort, he called Anne to Balmoral and demanded to see her in person. He wrote, "I need to hear it from you, Anne, in unsteady handwriting. Come and tell me why." Anne's reluctance hurt more than any argument. She wrote back with a short message on her own stationery. The message was brief and harsh. "Brother, no one person owns the crown. You have to allow other people to lead if you can't change." Her remarks were the last straw, breaking the last thread of hope for a peaceful resolution. Charles eventually got it at his office at Balmoral, where he was surrounded by pictures of his forebears. He was losing more than just a power battle. He was losing his family, his purpose, and the identity he had built over the course of 75 years. He was merely a king in name. Conclusion. The end of an age. The unavoidable end came in the spring of 2025, a year after the secret summit at Sandringham. King Charles III said he was stepping down in a pre-recorded speech to the country from Balmoral. He gave the crown to his son because of his health and a desire to see the monarchy evolve with the times. His voice was weak, yet dignified like the words of a man who had lost a battle he didn't really know how to fight. The change happened quickly. A smaller, more modern ceremony at Westminster Abbey crowned King William V and Queen Catherine. This ceremony was meant to show the start of a new era of a monarchy of service. Princess Anne, the architect of the Revolution, stood next to them, her expression unreadable, except for a glint of steely satisfaction in her eyes. By ending her brother's rule, she had preserved the crown. The House of Windsor was still there, but it was different now. People will remember King Charles III's reign not for how long it lasted, but for how dramatically and painfully it ended. It is a warning story about a king who had a crown but couldn't get his own family or the spirit of his period to follow him. The renewal trio led the way into a new age which was constructed on the ashes of a brother's hope and a father's heart. The monarchy had been saved from the edge, but the wounds of the Civil War that raged inside its walls would always be a part of its long and troubled history. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts and goodbye for now.